Welcome. I'm Jerry Nelson. I'm the Voter Service Chair for the Anoka Blaine Coon Rapids League of Women Voters. And we are pleased to present this forum tonight for the 10th District Court judges. If you are like me, it's very frustrating to vote for judges because it's so difficult to find out information about them. So we're very pleased to give you this opportunity to see these two races that are contested in the 10th District Court. The 10th District Court covers Pine County, Kanabec, Isanti, Chisago, Sherburne, Anoka, Wright, and Washington counties. Most of the judges are assigned to Anoka and Washington counties because they have the biggest population, but they move around as needed. Of the 19 10th District Court judges up for election this year, all but 2 of the judges are running unopposed. We will hear from the candidates in the 2 contested races in this program today. We will also be voting for 2 Supreme Court justices, both of which have an incumbent and a challenger. And also 7 of the 19 Court of Appeals judges where none of the incumbents have opposition. Both Supreme Court and Court of Appeals candidates run for election statewide. I live in Hennepin County, which is the 4th District Court, and so I can't vote for any of these and can be totally neutral. Throughout our 92-year history, the League of Women Voters has been recognized as a leader in voter education and respected for advocacy for good government. It is the League mission to promote citizen involvement in government and increase public understanding of public policy issues. We believe that an informed citizenry is the foundation of an effective democracy. League of Women Voters is open to membership for men and women, and we invite you to join us. There are local leagues all around the state, and you can also join at the state level. Visit our website, lwvmn.org, for more information. The League of Women Voters encourages informed and active participation in government for all citizens and influences public policy through advocacy and action. The League does not support or oppose any political party or candidates. Rather, the League provides opportunities such as this to bring the candidates and their views to you, the voters. The views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, not of the League of Women Voters. Our format tonight will be 2-minute opening statements from each of the candidates. Then we will have a number of questions from the audience where the candidates will have 1 minute. Unless it seems to be a complicated question, we'll give them a little bit more. And then closing statements of 1 minute. We'll start with Stacy Lashinski and Nancy Logering. And Stacy, would you please give us your opening statement?
Thank you, Jerry. Good evening. My name is Stacy Lashinski, and I'm running for a seat on the 10th Judicial District Bench. I was born and raised here in Anoka County, have lived here almost my entire life, left briefly to attend college at Arizona State University. I came back home and attended law school at the University of Minnesota, where I graduated in 2003. I have been practicing primarily in the field of real estate law since then. I started my career doing real estate litigation. After that, I took an in-house counsel position with my largest client. Since then, I have had my own firm and worked for a few other firms. My husband and I also opened a real estate brokerage in 2009, actively involved in the Minnesota Association of Realtors. 2 years ago, my mother-in-law and my mother were both diagnosed with cancer after being seemingly healthy women. At that point, my husband and I decided to reevaluate our lives. And I sat down and asked the question to myself that I've asked numerous times throughout my life: what do I really want to be when I grow up? And the answer was a judge. I want to make a difference in my community each and every day. I want to serve the community that I've lived in for so many years. And therefore, I'm lucky enough to be in a field where an election is a possible way for me to get to that ultimate career goal. And that's why I decided to run for office. and I look forward to getting to discuss some issues with you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Logering, please give us your opening statement.
All right. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you, Jerry, and the League of Women Voters for providing this opportunity for me to be able to present myself to the voters of my district. I'm Judge Nancy Logering. I am honored to serve as a current district court judge and of the 10th Judicial District. It's been a privilege for me to serve as a judge for over 14 years now. And it's been a rewarding and a remarkable experience. I seek to remain as a district court judge so that I can continue to provide an honorable and integrity in serving the administration of justice for the district. Being a trial court judge can be challenging. People come to court for a variety of reasons involving issues that are of the utmost importance in their lives. The decisions that judges make are important. They can be life-changing outcomes for the people that are affected by their rulings. Judges make important decisions such as who's going to have custody of a child, or whether and how long a person should be in prison. These are important decisions, and they require a lot of thought, and they need to be done by judges that have high-quality standards and that are competent. For this reason, it's important that there be training and experience. That's why I prepared for this. I've had 15 years courtroom experience as a prosecutor, and it served me well in preparing to become a judge. Since then, I've had over 14 years presiding over all kinds of different types of cases, thousands of cases, criminal and civil. I've had specialized training that is unique for judges and experience presiding over court trials and jury trials as well. I have a proven track record that's demonstrated that I know the law and I know how to apply it fairly. My number one priority is to uphold the Constitution and the laws of this country, and I'll do so with honor and integrity.
Thank you. First question, what do you believe is the most critical issue currently facing Minnesota's court system, and what do you recommend to be done to address it? Nancy Logering first, please.
It's hard to pick out just any one particular issue because I see there are several issues that are critically in need of attention by the court system. First of all, we're in a situation where the economy is somewhat uncertain. This can cause all kinds of tension. Obviously, the court is expected to do more with less. I serve on the Finance Administration Committee for the 10th Judicial District, and we're always looking for new ways to become more efficient and to be able to accomplish more while still protecting the interests of justice. And because of the difficulties in the financial distress, sometimes the litigants themselves are unable to afford attorneys. They come to court and they find that there's even fewer programs available to them than may have been available in the past. Sometimes this can increase tensions and there's a need for added security. I previously served as a chair on the Security Committee for the 10th Judicial District, promoting the safety and security of all. After all, you can't have justice if you're afraid to go to court. So with that in mind, and also with the improving technology, we're going paperless. I've had special training on this ongoing endeavor as we transition to adopt new technology to become more efficient.
Thank you. Stacy Lashinski.
I believe the number one issue is caseload. Obviously, we all hear on a daily basis about the overload that is happening in the court system. I think it's important for everyone to find ways to be more efficient. As a litigator, it was an ongoing frustration to have to explain to your clients that their case would likely take more than 2 years from start to finish. It's a difficult thing to explain to them, to try and make them understand how this system that we tout as being such a wonderful system could take so much time. They think their issue is the number one priority, and making them understand that there are other issues is very difficult. I also agree that going paperless is a huge concern. We will save so much time and money if we can find ways to utilize the technology advancements that are happening each and every day.
Thank you. The next question is, and we'll start with Stacy on this one, What are the advantages and disadvantages of the current system for selecting judges to the bench in Minnesota?
I would say, well, for those who don't know, there are two ways that we select judges: judicial appointment and election. I would say the advantage of the judicial appointment system is that any lawyer can put their name in the hat. They go in front of a committee, and there's a committee of people who get to select. The second way is through this process, judicial election. I believe the founders of our state had a reason for saying there were two methods for selecting judges. If they wanted it to be strictly an appointment system, that's what they would have done. They wanted to keep the power in the hands of the people who we serve every day in a courtroom. And that is why I think that the judicial election process is very important.
Thank you. Nancy Logering.
Okay. As Ms. Lashinski stated correctly, there are two different processes by which one can become a judge: the appointment process and by election. Those that go through the appointment process still must stand for election thereafter. I went through the appointment process, subjecting myself to some intense scrutiny. In order to get appointed, you have to submit your application with letters of recommendation. You also have to be willing to submit yourself to background checks. I've had to sign releases of information so that background checks could be done with the IRS, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, the Minnesota Supreme Court, the the Lawyers Board of Professional Responsibility, all of these organizations, to assure that the candidate has good character and the proper temperament to be a judge. Then the prestigious selection committee compares all the candidates together and interviews those candidates they deem appropriate. They limit it to 3 to 5, who they refer to the governor. The governor then does interviews and will make the selection. That candidate still has to stand for election thereafter, and I have done so and been reaffirmed as an appropriate judge by the voters who have reelected me repeatedly.
Okay, next question. How much discretion should judges have with regards to sentencing guidelines and alternative sentencing? Nancy first.
The Minnesota sentencing guidelines were designed to assure that there would be fairness in the way that people are sentenced, to make sure that if a crime is committed in northern Minnesota, for example, and the same type of crime was committed in southern Minnesota, those individuals should be treated similarly. So the sentencing guidelines take into consideration a person's prior criminal record, if any, and also the severity of the sentence. So it's a good thing to have the sentencing guidelines to assure that there isn't disparity and to assure fairness and justice in our system. That having been said, every case is unique, and it is important that the courts do have some discretion to treat each case as unique as it truly is. There are some other alternative programs, and there's some very good programs out there, so many that are too numerous to get into at this time.
Thank you. Stacy Lashinski.
As Ms. Logering said, Judge Logering, the sentencing guidelines are in place so that there is a sense of fairness throughout the system. It would be a tragedy for people to have such varying sentences in different parts of the state. Minnesota was at the forefront of creating sentencing guidelines, and numerous states have followed suit. With that being said, I do believe a judge needs to have discretion so that they can look at each case on its specific facts. As Judge Logering said, there are numerous programs to consider. With our prison overcrowding issues, there are situations where a downward departure may be the most efficient way and the most effective way to handle a situation.
Thank you. This next question is kind of following on that one. What methods of alternative sentencing do you think are working well? Stacy will be first.
I think there are a number of wonderful community involvement probation programs, a lot of drug treatment programs that are working very well. The downside of our prison system is you don't always get the help that you need, which is why reoffending is such an issue. I think, as we just stated, in each case you have to look at all of the facts, the individuals involved, and decide which route of punishment is going to be the most effective for that particular person.
Nancy?
Well, there's a number of ways that one can approach this issue. The minor traffic offenses, we're having more and more that are payable so that it reduces the number of court appearances and the stress on the court system. Stays of adjudication can be a way for traffic offenders to get a second chance to try to redeem themselves or rehabilitate themselves. But on the more serious offenses, we have to be mindful that there's such a large number of programs out there, including the Department of Corrections does have treatment programs available within the correctional facility. That having been said, for those that have chemical dependency issues, and there's certainly a lot of them coming through court, oftentimes they can be treated outside of the correctional facilities. And for those people, we definitely need to try to see if we can channel them properly into those programs so that they can be rehabilitated.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is maybe a shorter one. What is your opinion of party endorsement for judges? And we'll start with Nancy.
I'm opposed to party endorsements. I think it's very important for our judicial system to remain nonpartisan. When a party endorses a candidate, what happens is that people will automatically assume that whatever that party platform is will be the personal views of the candidate for judge. And judges need to be neutral. We're not legislators. We're not here to change the law. We're simply here to uphold the Constitution and the laws that are already in place. And when we start talking about our personal views and our personal agendas, I think it tends to confuse people and make people have the impression that how we view things may impact how we make our decisions in the courtroom, and it can just foster distrust and a sense that maybe the system isn't all that fair. So I think it's important that we stay away from political endorsements.
Thank you. Stacy.
I agree completely. I think our party endorsements have a negative effect on judicial elections. Our only job is to remain impartial, and as Judge Logering said, if parties endorse us, people automatically believe that that means one thing or another, regardless of how many times we reassure people that we are going to remain impartial. I just think it gives the appearance of potential unfairness down the road. So I think that political party endorsements should have no part of judicial elections.
Okay. Stacy, how do you perceive the role of the judiciary in relation to the other branches of government?
I believe our country's based, obviously, on a system of checks and balances, and our role is to interpret and apply the laws that have been created by the legislature. And only that. I do not believe that we should be trying to create or change laws from the bench. That's simply not our job. The people have the opportunity to elect those to represent them, to make and establish laws that they like, and therefore I think there has to be a clear line of separation between what legislators do and what judges do, because in order for us to remain impartial and fair, we can't be deciding which laws we think are good or bad. We just need to apply what we've been given in the most fair and neutral manner that we can.
Thank you. Nancy Logering.
I do agree with Ms. Lashinski on this. There are 3 separate branches of government. It's set up this way so we have checks and balances, and it's important that we keep that. There's no room for personal agendas here. If someone wants to push a personal agenda, then they should be in the legislature, not in the court system. In the judicial system, we need to be neutral. I apply the law the same for everyone. I don't ask people when they come in the courtroom if they're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or what their political leanings are. It doesn't matter. I'm going to preserve and protect their rights under the Constitution and the laws of this state, regardless of what their political affiliation is. And that's the way it needs to be.
Thank you. What legislative or procedural changes might improve the operations of the court? Nancy first.
Well, I think if we're talking about elections, there should be some minimum standards. For the election process as a process to select judges is fine to have the voters make those decisions, and I think it's important that the voters retain that ability to do so. However, I think that since I hear so many people don't know who the judges are, I think it would be a good idea if we had some minimum standards other than having a license and paying a $300 filing fee. For example, I think there should be a minimum number of years of courtroom experience, some minimum experience in handling certain types of cases before the public is subjected to someone that perhaps doesn't have the necessary qualifications to be a good judge. Beyond that, in terms of the legislature, I would like to see some funding to try to help us to preserve the interests of justice, because you really can't put a price tag on justice.
Stacy Lashinski, please.
I agree with Judge Logering that funding is probably the #1 legislative change that needs to happen. The judiciary is often overlooked, I believe, because there are not a lot of hot button issues, so that's not on the top of a lot of legislators' list. The population that is oftentimes served by the judiciary is not one who has necessarily the deep pockets to get the legislatures to push their issues. And so I feel the judiciary is just often pushed down because of other hot button issues, whatever they may be any given year. And so I think we need to try and put this issue at the forefront. This is a system that everyone needs and utilizes at some point in their life. And if we want to continue providing justice to all, we need to make sure the funds are in place to make that process available to everyone.
Thank you. Are there benefits of being a member of legal associations and affiliations, and which ones do you belong to? Stacy Lashinski first.
I believe there are benefits to being members of different associations. I'm a member of the Minnesota State Bar Association and the Anoka County Bar Association. It allows you to get to know other attorneys in your community. They also put on a lot of great programs, continuing education and such. I'm also a member of the Minnesota Association of Realtors, and I sit on their Professional Standards Committee. I think it is great to have a system in place where the Minnesota Association of Realtors does its ethics hearings through their peers. So I think it's great to have a system like that where you have your peers helping make sure that professional standards remain where they should.
Thank you. Nancy Logering.
I agree with Ms. Lashinski on the importance of having affiliations and associations in the legal field. We do benefit greatly from that exchange of ideas and the programming that is available to us through these organizations. I'm a member of the American Judges Association, the American Judicature Association, the International Association of Women Judges, the National Association of Women Judges, the Minnesota District Judges Association. I'm also a part of the 10th Judicial District bench, of course, and I've served on the Security Committee in the past as chair, on the Equal Justice Committee, on the Judicial Resources Committee. I'm currently serving on the Administration Finance Committee. I'm also a member of the 18th, 19th, and 21st Bar Associations, along with the American Bar Association and the Minnesota Bar Association.
Thank you. This will be the last question before our closing statements. If you had a wish list, what would you put on it to help you do a better job as a judge? We'll start with Nancy Logering.
I wish I could better understand addictions, because there are so many people coming through the court system that have alcohol addictions or chemical dependency addictions to controlled substances. This is becoming a terrible problem. We're seeing an increase in methamphetamine use and now heroin use and even crocodile coming into our communities. Most of the cases that we see coming through court are criminal in nature. We have approximately 72% of the cases, as of the statistics available from last year, are criminal cases. Oftentimes, there's chemical dependency addictions behind these issues. Also on our mentally ill commitment calendar, oftentimes it's related again to addictions to chemical usage. There's so many programs out there and so many things that we're doing to try to help these people overcome these addictions, and I just wish I had a better understanding of the causes so we could do an even better job.
Thank you. Stacy Lashinski.
I wish there was a way to ensure that everyone had access to adequate representation in court. I think many people have a bad perception of lawyers as a whole, and in some cases just avoid them. In other cases, there are numerous populations that just don't know how to find a competent lawyer to help them. I think so many of our problems with judicial efficiency, caseload, all of these issues could be solved if everyone had a good attorney representing them, knew how to find one, and if all attorneys were held up to the standards that they should be.
Thank you. Now let's have our closing statements, and Stacy Lashinski will be first.
The first thing I want to acknowledge is that Judge Logering has been a judge for 14 years. I'm the first one to admit and acknowledge that. That's my biggest weakness in this case. I don't have the judicial experience that she does. However, when our state was created, they said you could, if you had a law license and experience, well, you don't even need experience, a law license, you could be a judge. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a business owner, I'm an attorney, and in all of those roles, it seems to me there are three main things that people want. They want to be heard, they want to be respected, and they want to be treated fairly. And I think that if I vow to remember those things each and every day, I can run in a courtroom that is just as efficient and as Judge Logering has. I am not questioning her ability to do that. I just think sometimes a fresh perspective is what's best for our system. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Logering.
Okay. First, I want to thank you, Jerry, and the League of Women Voters, and all of you that are listening to the forum. The issues that come before the court are varied and unique. A good judge must be more than just well-intentioned. Not only must the judge be patient, a good listener, compassionate, and respectful, but should be somebody that's experienced and knowledgeable in a variety of the laws and procedures that come before us. The necessary learning and experience needs to be gained before sitting as a judge, and not in the courtroom at the expense of the party seeking justice. I have a total of over 29 years courtroom experience, 15 as a lawyer and over 14 as a trial judge. My track record has proven me to be a good judge, a judge that is patient, diligent, knowledgeable, and fair. I now stand before you seeking your approval to continue to serve with integrity as a district court judge for the 10th Judicial District. My first and foremost priority as a judge is to uphold the Constitution and the laws of this great state, and I pledge to do so with integrity, honor, and with respect for the dignity of everyone that comes before me.
Thank you both for your good answers and your willingness to be here tonight and to face your voters. We will be back in a few minutes to hear from the other 10th District Court judges who are Julie LaFleur and Susan Miles. So let's just take a short break.
Did you know that in 1776, the founding fathers of the United States of America decided that their official language would be English, not German, by one vote? Did you know that in 1948, President Truman carried Ohio and California by less than one vote per precinct, thereby winning enough electoral votes to give him the presidency? Did you know that in 1960, one vote change in each precinct would have defeated John F. Kennedy? One vote does make a difference. Please vote.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
I'm on Sunfish Lake in Ramsey, and you're watching QCTV.
The average text, takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Welcome back. We're going to continue our 10th District Court Judge Candidate Forum now with 2 more candidates that are running against each other, Julie LaFleur and Susan Miles. And we will start with Julie LaFleur and her opening statement.
Thank you. I was once told by a now retired judge that if my client was looking for justice, she came to the wrong place. I made a vow that day to make a difference in our courts and in our legal system. No one should be denied justice. I want to put family back into family law. Good family law attorneys make good judges. We understand both sides of the issues, and as a judge, I will do the right thing. Being a judge does not give you the opportunity to do the right thing. It is the responsibility to do the right thing. As a family law attorney, I see the results that bad decisions or that poor treatment in court has on families, has on people and their extended families. It can be devastating to people. I believe I can bring patience, respect, reasonableness, fairness, practical, real-life experience to the bench with no predisposed prejudices or private agendas. Judges need to be balanced and hopefully ingraining accountability and not rubber stamping each case. My law practice is a general practice with a focus on family law, and I have a background in criminal defense as well as my practice crosses over into many different areas of law. I'm an ethics investigator for the Office of Lawyers of Professional Responsibility through the 2nd District, investigating complaints against unethical behavior by attorneys. I have committed hundreds and hundreds of hours in pro bono representation. I also staff legal aid clinics, help those that cannot afford attorneys with court forms and procedures. I'm technologically advanced, and I understand legal issues that now involve technology such as cyberstalking, white-collar crimes, and identity theft. I believe that the contemporary choice for judge would be me, and believe that justice is a right and not only for the privileged. I would be honored to be elected to this important role of public service. As Justice Kennedy once said, the judge is not one of public service or one of public masters, but is one of public service. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Miles, your opening statement, please.
Good evening. I'm Judge Susan Miles. I've been serving as a district court judge for the last 18 years, and it's been an honor and a privilege to serve the citizens of the 10th District. I'm asking the voters to grant me the opportunity to serve them for an additional 6-year term so that I may continue my work inside the courtroom deciding cases as best as I am able, and outside the courtroom promoting public trust and confidence in the judicial system. I'm running on the line of experience, respect, and leadership. Experience matters. Over the last 4 years, Governor Dayton has appointed approximately 76 judges. And in the next 4 years, it's estimated that about 80 plus judges will hit the age bracket of 65 to 70 and therefore are candidates for retirement. End result is, if you do the math, then by 4 years from now, about 150 or 160 judges will have less than 8 years of experience. It's important to keep seasoned judges on the bench and have diversity in experience breadth so that the experienced judges can be on hand to help teach the newer judges. And I have, in fact, provided a great deal of training and guidance to new judges, which maybe we'll have an opportunity to speak about later. So that's the experience component. The respect component is I respect the rule of law as well as the humanity of the people who appear in front of me on a day-to-day basis. And trust me, there's a lot of humanity that walks through the doors of a courtroom. So I have the respect of the lawyers practicing in the district. I have recently won a bar poll, 82 to 18%, and the endorsement of the Academy of Certified Trial Lawyers of Minnesota. I seek to continue my work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our first question is, and Susan Miles, we'll have you go first. What do you believe is the most critical issue currently facing Minnesota's court system, and what do you recommend to be done to address it?
The answer to that question depends on the lens through which you view it. If you were a person of color, you would probably answer that the biggest issue facing the court system is the public trust and confidence in the system by other people of color. Sitting as a trial court judge, I would say it's the lack of resources available, especially public defenders and lawyers to provide civil services to clients who cannot otherwise afford them on our own. We're awash in pro se litigants. I would hope that as the state's economy improves, that we can find more funding for the public defender system and greater funding for Legal Services Corporation so that these folks have access to justice.
Thank you. Julie LaFleur.
From the family law perspective, what I see as one of the issues facing the court systems is what I deal with all the time, and that is the unavailability of access to justice, as Judge Miles had put it. People can no longer afford attorneys, and they're frustrated by the system, and they don't believe that they get a fair treatment when they do go into the court systems without an attorney. So they really feel that they have lost that as an option of actually going to court because of the way they're treated or because they don't understand the system. As noted, I do staff pro se legal aid clinics where we help people with the forms and help as many as we possibly can. But as a judge, I believe I could be very patient and deal well with pro se litigants who need their access to justice.
Thank you. Next question, Julie will go first. What are the advantages and disadvantages of the current system for selecting judges to the bench in Minnesota? And how do you feel about retention elections?
Thank you. The current system is by the Judicial Committee selects from a pool of candidates that apply, and they then submit their selections to the governor. The governor does not have to follow that. While I believe that that is a very fair and accurate system, there is a tendency to appoint county attorneys, city attorneys, people who are already a system. And I don't believe that we have a diverse bench anymore because of that appointment. But I do believe that that's the best way we have. A retention election system, I believe, has its own set of problems as well, and I believe that that can get just as ugly as an open election. But I believe our country is founded on people who have seen an issue, feel that like they can make a change to it, and run for election. It's the basis of our democracy right now, and I don't think that should be taken away from the people. You should be allowed to vote.
Thank you. Susan Miles.
I've been deeply involved in these discussions throughout my career on the bench, primarily as president of the Minnesota District Judges Association when the retention election proposal first hit the books. The devil is always in the details, and I've maintained an open mind to a retention election system. I led a committee of the District Judges Association which produced a report on the performance evaluation aspect of a retention election system. It's a very valuable piece. To do it right costs a lot of money, and guess what? It's difficult getting the legislature to commit to funding such a system. The current system, I think, is working pretty well. The fears that we would become awash in ads from outside interest groups just have not come to fruition. So I am happy to be running again. It's my reunion tour. I was elected 18 years ago out of a field of 12, and I'm happy to engage in another conversation on civics education.
Okay, the next question, does Minnesota's judicial selection process preserve judicial independence? Susan Miles.
I believe it does. And as far as balance goes, the governor has actually been appointing a wide cross-section. 3 out of the 4 judges recently appointed in Dakota County are family law practitioners. As far as maintaining independence, while it is possible for political parties to endorse, that has happened very infrequently and only at the appellate court level. The independence of the judiciary, I think, is preserved through the very system that we're going through right now, which is to hold judges accountable through elections. We, of course, are mindful of the impact that our decisions could have on the folks at large, but we try and shield ourselves from any thoughts about what the political fallout could be from those decisions when it comes time to vote.
Thank you. Julie LaFleur.
I agree that the current judicial selection process does preserve the independence of the nature of that. The selection process is, the committee has a wide variety of people who are appointed to that. They distill down through hundreds of applications in order to get to that, to the ones that are appointed over. I do agree that we are very thankful that there are 3 judges now that have been selected, appointed in Dakota County that have a family law experience. And on behalf of the Family Law Bar, we are elated over that because we believe that it is time for family and solo and also criminal defense attorneys to be considered in this process. As far as the independence, I haven't seen any strong politics on either side. I haven't seen any endorsements other than at the appellate or Supreme Court level. And I believe that we have rules in place that do keep us in check to make sure that we don't make promises outside of what would show it would be an independent.
Okay, the next question I have, you've kind of both talked about, so maybe if you have anything to add on this. What is your opinion of party endorsement for judges? Julie LaFleur.
I think party endorsement can get convoluted and can get to be kind of a mess. The 2010 election was the first year that we actually did see party endorsements at the district court level, and none of those prevailed, the people who actually did receive the party endorsements. And I think with the current news, with the endorsements that we do have, really discredits any of the positive aspects that party endorsement can bring with that. But I also believe that judges can be endorsed by other groups if it's a basis of being fair and no preferential treatment will get done or proposed or promised as a result of their endorsement.
Susan Miles.
I think we agree, although I frankly don't think that political party endorsement should play any role in selection of judges at any level, whether by voting or through selection by the governor. I do agree that there is a place for professional groups to play a role and help educate the public about seeing a judge through their lens, who is competent, who is professional, who has the confidence of the local bar. And I'm proud to have the endorsement of the Academy of Certified Trial Lawyers of the state of Minnesota.
Thank you. Next question, how much discretion should judges have with regards to sentencing guidelines and alternative sentencing? And what methods of alternative sentencing do you think are working well? Susan Miles, first.
The sentencing guidelines, first let me explain how they work. It's a grid which has on one axis the defendant's criminal history score and on another axis the severity level of the offense. The boxes are comprised of a range of months to which you would sentence a defendant if they fall within a presumptive commit. So a judge always has discretion to sentence within that range of months in a box. The next issue is what happens if somebody is asking for, usually it's a downward dispositional departure. A judge does have some discretion if he or she can find what's called substantial and compelling reasons for departing from a guideline sentence. And the law is pretty clear as to what circumstances give rise to substantial and compelling reasons. So I have exercised that judgment. I take it very seriously, and I weigh a lot of factors, and it's a very nuanced decision.
Thank you. Julie LaFleur.
Thank you. First of all, as a judicial candidate, I believe we are not supposed to make rule or any sort of promises on how we would rule or not rule in a particular area. And sentencing guidelines is one of them. So to say that I have certain criteria of what would increase or decrease the sentencing guidelines or to deviate from that, I am uncomfortable answering that. But I do believe that there is a wide range of discretion for the judges within the sentencing guideline grid. As an attorney, a defense attorney at one point, I have asked for departures, downward departures based on the severity of the crime, the impact of the victims, the rehabilitation that the party has done in order to mitigate any chances of that person reoffending, as well as part of the sentencing guidelines is considered enhanceable offenses. So if their background is clean, then I still think all of those can come into the judicial discretion of sentencing guidelines.
Thank you. How do you perceive the role of the judiciary in relation to the other branches of government? Julie first.
Well, the other branches of government are much more partisan. If we're looking at the legislative or the executive branches, they're definitely partisan. They make laws, they write laws, they discuss them, then they pass them, and there's a variety of checkpoints that those laws go through before, and they're also reporting to constituents. Where judges, the judiciary branch, they make law too. And it's case law. And when a party goes into court and there's case law on a particular issue or subject, the judges should be following that case law. So when a case goes up to the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court and that judge, the lower court judge is upheld, that becomes, and if it's published, that becomes the case law of that particular issue. So judges have an extreme responsibility in being careful in their orders because it could become law.
Thank you. Susan Miles.
Ours is a system of checks and balances, and that's what the judiciary was created for, was to make the hard decisions as to when the other branches have done wrong, maybe not even overstepping their bounds, but perhaps have pounced on the rights of individuals. So on a day-to-day basis in the district court, we may see it in instances like condemnation cases. So we are asked to determine whether a condemnation award is fair or whether or not eminent domain should even be taking place to begin with. Then we see it in instances where the state is acting through county attorneys. Have the county attorneys overstep their bounds in charging cases? We're asked all the time whether or not a case should be dismissed for lack of probable cause. So those are just a few examples of some of the checks and balances that we as judges have on the other branches of government.
Thank you. Given the very limited number of public defenders, how can no-income defendants get information and a defense? Susan Miles.
Well, I'm not sure if I understand the question. People qualify for public defenders if they make 125% of the poverty guidelines. And so many, many people are granted public defenders. What happens is that there are more people who want public defenders than we've got public defender time to service them. So actually, the court system spends a great deal of its time waiting for the public defenders to serve the needs of the people who are waiting to talk to them. So it's a lack of resources driven calendar, many of the criminal calendars. If the issue is how do people find out about public defenders, they're informed of that at the beginning of every criminal court session, where they're advised of their rights, their right to be represented by an attorney, and their ability to, if they choose to do so, fill out an application for a public defender.
Thank you. Julie LaFleur.
Thank you. I agree with Judge Miles, and that the lack of public defenders is a problem with our court schedules. But as all people, especially I believe the question was, well, someone who does not have any income, how can they find out? Most people who are arrested and are waiting for an arraignment or waiting for their court appearance or getting out of jail are either informed of their right to apply for a public defender before they even go into court, or while they get there they can make out the application. So public defenders are available to almost everybody who has zero income, up to, again, 125% of the poverty level, so that it's available to them and that information is provided to the defendants at the time they are arrested.
Thank you. What legislative or procedural changes might improve the operations of the court? Julie.
Well, I previously was a court clerk before I went into private practice. And we have e-filing system now. The courts are moving over into an electronic filing system, and I believe that that has substantially increased the efficiency of the court. I know not all judicial officers appreciate it because they do like those paper files, but I believe the electronic filing system has been wonderful for those of us out in the field and able to get our documents in and to improve the efficiency of that. I know budgets are short and budgets are getting cut, and I just hope that the legislative branch, when they are doing the budgets for the year, make sure that the courts have enough budget so that they can be adequately staffed, and also in moving forward with, like, say, additional public defenders and additional court clerks. So I think it's just mindful of the budget and also mindful of the process.
Thank you. Susan Miles.
Well, I would agree that funding public defenders is something that is of critical need at the moment. I'm happy to say that the legislature has been very attentive to the issue of specialty courts. Some examples of specialty courts are drug courts and veterans courts. Juvenile mental health courts would also be a fantastic idea, but a lot of these have had trouble getting off of the ground because of the very intense dedication of human resources to handling these cases. So I think further work being held on specialty courts, and Representative Hillstrom recently held hearings on this issue. She seems to be a good supporter of specialty courts, is a big step in the right direction.
Thank you. How would you resolve a conflict between your personal beliefs and constitutional, statutory, or case law in order to reach a decision? Susan Miles.
Well, that's pretty easy. My personal beliefs take a back seat to statutory and case law. So I make sure that I don't get myself into that kind of a situation by thoroughly researching the legal issues and applying them to the facts before me. So I may carry in my own experience and my own view as to what the law may be, but at the end of the day, it is irrelevant when it comes to applying the law to the facts, which is our job as judges.
Thank you. Julie LaFleur.
Thank you. I believe that the personal politics or the personal beliefs of the judge is completely irrelevant and absolutely has no business being in court, and has no business being a component in the decision made by any judge at any level. The judges are supposed to be balanced, fair, do everything they can to do accurate findings of fact, and apply the law regardless of their personal beliefs or their politics. If it's a situation where they just absolutely cannot reconcile that difference, then they should recuse themselves from the case, and possibly another judge would be able to handle that in a certain area.
Thank you. We have time for just one more question before our closing statements. If you had a wish list, what would you put on it to help you do a better job as a judge? I'll start with Julie.
Well, I'm a candidate running for judge, so I cannot put on there that I have a wish list of what I would have as a judge, because I don't have that experience of that. What I can say as an attorney who's been frustrated by the process in courts, there are so many really, really good judges out there that really understand family law, really understand what they're going through. And I guess my wish list as a judicial candidate is that more judges get appointed or elected to the bench that have the family law experience and the experience that understanding all sides of the issues, understanding the practice of family law, understanding the practice and what these decisions that these judges are making have upon not only the parties but their entire families and everybody surrounding them.
Thank you. Susan Miles.
I think I would wish for more probation officers to be able to spend more time with our defendants. Probation officers, social workers, guardians ad litem, these are the folks out there on the front lines who are working with people on a day-to-day basis. And I am amazed at how much effort they put into working with folks. Their caseloads are very, very daunting, and they do a whole lot with just a little. I would like to see us support the probation officers, the social workers, the guardians ad litem, all these folks who are behind the scenes, who are the true heroes of the judicial system.
Thank you. Now would you give us your closing statement, Susan Miles?
First of all, I want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event this evening. We often hear that there just is not enough information available about judicial candidates running for office, and the League is doing its level best to overcome that barrier, as are the Bar Association and some of the newspapers who provide voters' guides. To summarize, I hope I've been clear that I am steadfast in my desire to continue to serve as well as I know how, and that I will continue to perform my duties as fairly as I am able, applying the law evenly to all and deciding cases promptly and clearly. Members of the Minnesota State Bar Association and the Academy of Certified Trial Lawyers of Minnesota have considered my qualifications and have found me to be the clear choice. Tonight I have aimed to prove that I am the person that if you, the voters, ever find yourselves or a family member or close friend in the courtroom, that you would want me, a judge of experience, to decide your most important affairs.
Thank you. Julie LaFleur.
Thank you. I believe I have the heart, patience, and the temperament for this seat. As Justice Kennedy once wrote, there is no post of public service where temperament is more important on the bench. I too have endorsements. I've got endorsements through Minneapolis Building Trades, through other unions, because I understand what the average working family faces. I also have been endorsed by Outfront.org, which is an organization for gay and lesbians and for the right to marry. I've been, the ripple effect of decisions that have been court have been well felt with throughout the community, and that's why I do have the support of the average working person. I believe I'm the best candidate for many reasons. Respect is a two-way street, and when a person walks out of the courtroom feeling completely disrespected, it's marred the entire judicial system. That will not happen if I am elected judge.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to remind you that the views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, not of the League of Women Voters. And this forum is not an endorsement of any candidate. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, thank you all for coming and for watching this event on television or on YouTube. And we hope that you have learned about the candidates for 10th District Court that are up for election with an opponent. And thank you to the candidates for participating in this forum and for being willing to serve the community and participate in the democratic process by running for office. Be sure to check out the Secretary of State's website to find your complete personalized sample ballot. mnvotes.org will give you so much information. You can click on candidates' websites to get more information about them and get information on registering and where to vote. Remember to vote on Election Day, November 4th, 2014. Thank you so much.